Hi, I'm Angie, and you're watching Dante's Vaccination.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So I really wanted to report on this story. I just haven't had time to make my video about it, but this is not really a time-sensitive type story. It was reported over a month ago that Vaganas Marez, for those of you guys who don't know him or aren't that too familiar with him, he's the one that just recently got knocked out in the third round by Gennady Golovkin. He's a US Olympian. As a matter of fact, when he turned pro, he was looked at as a serious prospect until he stepped up in competition and started to fight tough contenders like Charlo, Erislandy Lara, and Demetrius Andrade. He lost to all of them. But Vaganas was an Al Heyman fighter, and this is where it gets interesting. You see, Vaganas Marez, he ended up talking bad about Al Heyman, and he ended up getting dropped from the stable. Now that he's no longer with Al Heyman and he realizes what he had before, he regrets it and he's asking to come back. Now I'm gonna quote exactly what Vaganas Marez had to say, but keep in mind, guys, this video is not about how good Vaganas Marez is. None of that really matters, because what I wanna do right now is I wanna illustrate the dichotomy of working with Al Heyman as opposed to working with other promoters. In other words, how these promoters slash advisors are received by the fighters and the trainers, everyone in the industry. Well, except for the media, that's a whole different story, but we'll get to that. So this is what Vaganas had to say. Quote, "The one thing I regret in my career is badmouthing Al Heyman, because I have nothing bad to say about him. I was just upset with the people in the company that were not treating me right, and I took it out on him. That was a mistake I made, and I want him to know that I am thankful for him. I'm not saying that for him to take me back. I just want him to know that I am thankful for him. I sat back and I thought about my career and my whole life and how things went, and he's one person I shouldn't have badmouthed, and I'm sorry for that." Now, before I continue his quote, I want to respond to him talking about badmouthing Al Heyman. See, this is the reason why you always have to be a leader and not a follower. Because honestly, this was a simple case of racist people stereotyping Al Heyman as the cancer of the sport, he's bad for boxing, etc., etc., etc. So I'm gonna tell you what happens sometimes. So with a person like Vaganas Marez, he's hearing all these negative things about Al Heyman. So the first time Vaganas has a dispute with Al Heyman or Al Heyman's company, the first thing Vaganas does is he resorts right back to those stereotypes about Al Heyman without giving Al Heyman the benefit of the doubt. And that is exactly what happened in this situation. We see this when it comes to racial stereotypes all the time, right? You'll have someone who knows the racial stereotypes towards black people, and then as soon as they get mad at you, all of a sudden, they'll say something like, "Oh, now I see why people say this about you blacks," and et cetera, et cetera. We've seen people do stuff like that before. Instead of you blaming it on the one individual, you take it out on the entire race, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's what Vaganas Marez did in this case. What I'm saying about Vaganas Marez is he took those negative stereotypes towards Al Heyman in particular because he felt that he was being mistreated. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and continue with this quote by Vaganas Marez. So then he says, "I don't need an offer from Al Heyman. If Haymon wants to accept me back, I will go to him immediately and I will want him in my boxing life. At the end of the day, he takes care of his fighters. He took care of me also. His fighters make good money, and a lot of people hate on the amount the fighters make because it's a lot of money, but they don't know what we go through outside boxing." Now, did you guys just hear what Vaganas said right there? Exactly what I was telling you when it comes to stereotypes and listening to the stereotypes. He just said right there, a lot of people, they hate on Al Heyman. And that's exactly the mistake that Vaganas he made. As soon as Vaganas got upset, he started to listen to what the people were saying about Al Heyman, the one. But going back to what Vaganas said when he admitted that he completely messed up, and if Al would take him back, he would go back immediately. Talked about the money that the fighters make, praise after praise after praise. Guys, when it comes to other promoters, how many times have you ever heard fighters regretting that they actually left Bob Arum, Oscar De La Hoya? Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, Mikey Garcia, and even Manny Pacquiao, they all left Top Rank, and none of them have regretted it. I haven't heard any of them say, that was the biggest mistake I made in my career, was leaving Bob Arum. If he would take me back, I would go back to him immediately. No, we're not hearing that, right? Abner Marez, he left Golden Boy. And Abner Marez said, leaving Golden Boy and going to Al Heyman, he compared Golden Boy to working for McDonald's. And he said working with Al Heyman was like all of a sudden working in a law firm as a lawyer. Leo Santa Cruz, he named his son after Al Heyman. Even Manny Pacquiao, his reps have praised Al Heyman, saying that it's so easy to work with Al Heyman. He just wants to put on the best fights and he truly cares about his fighters. You see, I always tell you guys, the truth will always come to light. No matter how much you try to bury the truth, no matter how much you try to lock the truth in a jail cell, the truth will always break free. And right now, the truth is exposing this huge racial component that exists in the sport of boxing today. Because when it comes to Al Heyman, if you're a true boxing fan and you're not a racist, then you will realize that you are in a win-win situation with Al Heyman in the PBC series. Because Al Heyman was the first person to bring fights back to mainstream media, free television. And when I say bring fights back, I'm talking about main event type fights, fights that you usually see on HBO and Showtime. He brought those fights back to free television. And once he did it, other promoters, they followed. Now Bob Arum is doing the same thing. But yet this is a man that was hated more than Floyd Mayweather at one point. About 2-3 years ago when PBC first emerged, oh yeah, the hate was unbelievable because he was a threat on the coincidental list. Just like Vaganas said, you had fans and media that were criticizing Al Heyman just because he was paying fighters more money. Just think of how crazy that sounds. When it comes to Don King, you have fighters that were accusing him of ripping fighters off, taking their money, shortchanging them, right? Leaving them broke. But then you have Al Heyman that are making these fighters rich, that have these fighters once again naming their kids after him. You got people like Errol Spence saying, we over here making money. Everyone is happy. Robert Garcia, trainer Robert Garcia, he works with everyone because he's a trainer. And he said, out of everyone that I've worked with, nobody has treated us better. No one has given us better accommodations than Al Heyman. Complaining that Al Heyman is paying the fighters too much, that's like complaining that the prices are too low at the store that you go and shop at, right? What kind of sense does that make? Imagine you being signed with Al Heyman. Some other promoter, he tries to recruit you. And he says to you, listen, man, you want to come over here with us because Al Heyman is over there paying you too much. He paying you way too much. If you come over here with us, we're going to give you the money that you're supposed to be getting paid, which is way less than what Al Heyman is paying you now. So you ready to sign with us? You just can't make this stuff up, guys. It's crazy, man. The racial double standards are unbelievable in the sport of boxing today. The fact that Al Heyman brought fights to free TV. I remember when Errol Spence, when he fought against, Bundu? He fought against Bundu, and because the fight was on free TV and it followed the Olympics, 6 million fans tuned in to watch that fight. Now, of course, this is when the racists will interject and they'll be like, well, come on, man. He only did that because it was following the Olympics. Exactly. That's the whole purpose of putting it on TV following the Olympics. I mean, if I have a hot dog stand and I decide to put my hot dog stand right next to a big football arena where they're having the Super Bowl and I sell 20 times more hot dogs, are you gonna say, oh, come on, man, you only sold those hot dogs because you put your hot dog stand right next to the damn Super Bowl arena? Are you gonna say that? Because if you did say that, you would be damn right. That's what you're supposed to do. The whole purpose is to bring the sport of boxing to the mainstream. That is the purpose. And that's what Al Heyman has been successful at doing. So you have all these fights on free TV, right? Now keep in mind, when Al Heyman was putting these fights on free TV, you had these racist fans still complaining, saying, oh yeah, but it's not really free because you still have to pay for your cable subscription, etc., etc. Meanwhile, DAZN, they just doubled their monthly price from $9.99 to $19.99. And the same fans that hated Al Heyman's guts, saying that he was destroying the sport, he's a cancer of the sport, he's this and he's that, calling him racial slurs, the same people who said this about Al Heyman are now defending the fact that DAZN just doubled their prices. Now, don't get me wrong, they still have $9.99 for the whole year, which is an excellent deal. It's a great deal. But the point is, for the fans that don't want to pay for a whole year and they just want to pay monthly, they have to deal with that price being doubled. And now the same fans that complained about Al Heyman putting fights on free TV, they're actually defending the fact that DAZN just doubled their price. They're over here in the comment section saying, hey, I don't mind. I don't mind paying double at all. And hey, if you add it all up, it's still way less than pay-per-view, etc., etc. They're doing everything they can do to defend this because it's not about boxing for these type of fans. It's only about race. That's why these fans, they don't care if the price continues to go up. They're looking at this like we have to go against Al Heyman. No matter what, we have to go against Al Heyman. We have to make sure Al Heyman doesn't win. They forgot that we're supposed to be boxing fans, or they're supposed to be boxing fans. It's way bigger than that for them now. You feel me? But at the end of the day, once again, when you listen to the testimonies, the facts do not reflect anything that you hear these racist fans saying about Al Heyman. Listen, man, when you're a real fan, when you're a real boxing fan, like myself, you don't care. It doesn't matter if DAZN is successful, if PBC is successful, if Top Rank is successful, as long as we're getting to see the fights that we want to see, I'm happy. If we get to see the biggest fight on Top Rank, DAZN, PBC, it doesn't matter to me, as long as we're getting to see the fights. But once again, these racist fans, they're not looking at it that way because DAZN is not ran by black people. So it doesn't matter how much they raise the price. It don't matter what fights are coming on. We have to ride with them. We have to be loyal to our gang. And it's not about that. It's about boxing. So with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.